these aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact Friday. It's an absolute miracle this is happening at all this week, today. And I don't even have a tea to slurp. I've just some lukewarm coffee from a flask from earlier. Happy Friday, the 29th of November. I'm sorry for the absolutely zero notice, but it's the end of a very long week and I just want to get finished. I really, really want to get finished up. But there's a lot to go through. And I'm also having all kinds of problems. I've got the wrong cameras and I've left stuff behind. Okay, I'm Charlie Lambden. This is Moving Home with Charlie, and this is the weekly Friday when I do, supposed to be a newsletter, but for the third week in a row, this is a video, not a newsletter, because I just haven't had time. Newsletter takes even longer to prepare than this. If you are watching this on TikTok, it means you're watching it after the live stream. And if you want to catch these live, you've got to follow on YouTube. But and I apologize to all the TikTok followers for my neglect of the comments and questions that you put there. I just haven't had a chance to get to you. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts or any other podcast channel, thanks for listening. And the links to everything I describe are below in the show notes. Not below if you're listening, are they? They're in the show notes of the podcast episode. And the other reason I have to do this quickly is because it's Thanksgiving weekend, which is, we have an annual tradition now in our family of watching Planes, Trains and Automobiles with Steve Martin and John Candy, which for me gets funnier every year that I watch it, and the kids love it too. Anyway, I am digressing. What else was there? There was something else I had to say before I started, and I can't remember what it is. Okay, it'll come back to me, I think. Right, the 5 facts. And as I said, this has been absolutely chaotic this week and today. Let's start with Halifax reports. Okay, let me get this up on screen. There we go. Okay, this is the Lloyd's website. So this is from the source. Home buying affordability improves as house price to earnings ratio eases. Now, it is true that the house price to... So my point about this is that they're reporting it as a fact. And there's nothing technically incorrect with that statement, right? But it's misleading, and this is why. It fails to take into account actual affordability, which is when a broker will talk to a borrower and say, give me all your outgoings. How much are you spending on childcare, on car payments, on credit cards, on energy, on everything else? And they will look at your individual affordability. In other words, what's left over in your monthly income after you've paid all of your bills. And as we know from owner-occupier house price inflation being at 7%, that's going up wildly faster than both wages and house prices. In other words, people's disposable income, or the budget with which they've got left over to pay their mortgage payments, is not improving, that's decreasing. So it's true that using the basic metric, house price to earnings, as in real earnings, real income versus house prices, yes, it's true that that has improved. But in the real world, that measure doesn't take into account the change in people's actual disposable income. And as you will see from one of the other facts that came out from the Bank of England this week, today, in fact, there are lots of things that are going up and that are going to affect affordability. Okay, so that's fact number one, is that Halifax reports home buy affordability improves, which is, of course, what they want to do is they want to say, look, it's okay, you can buy a house, it's confidence building, go out but come and borrow money from us and buy a house. Come on, because it's getting cheaper to buy. It isn't, even with house prices falling in some parts of the market. And actually, the easing that they're referring to is tiny. It's absolutely tiny. They're saying it's down. It's eased down from 6.62 to 6.55. That's 0.07 of an improvement, or a 1% improvement in housing affordability as measured by house prices to earnings ratio. A 1% improvement. But with 7% ownership and housing cost inflation, in the real world, house prices are the actual real cost of buying a home is not getting easier, it's getting harder still. If any of you think I've missed something and I'm getting this wrong, please tell me, right? Tell me wherever you're watching this, on X or YouTube or Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitch or wherever, just tell me in the comments if you think I've got that wrong. Because it's my reason for highlighting this is that it is more gaslighting. For those people who don't forensically examine their budget, which is most people, by the way. Well, it's in the news, and Halifax said it. It's official. Housing affordability is getting better. It really isn't. It really, really isn't. At the higher end of the market, if you're lucky enough to be upsizing to a top of the ladder property, yes, it is. If you're a first-time buyer, no. Is it? It's not. It's just not. Right. That's fact number one. Is that it's a fact that Halifax has reported this, but it is misleading gaslighting, and therefore guff. Fact number one. Fact number two is government announces £3 billion funding for home builders has become available. Oh God, hang on a second. I told you I wasn't ready for this. So this is again going to the actual source. All right, this is the Gov UK website, and this is a press release published 2 days ago. 3 billion house building schemes to unlock homes and boost growth. Now, is it just me, or is the government putting out press releases on its website that sound like spin rather than sober, fact-based announcement, and let the newspaper do the spin? Or is this more gaslighting? Unlock homes. Unlocking homes? They're not unlocking homes, right? If they were using language as it meant, unlock means key, unlocking home, not unlocking homes and boosting growth. No, it doesn't. Again, this is absolute gaslighting testicles. It really is. Billions of pounds in guarantees for houses. Oh, guarantees. Oh, hang on a second. This isn't actually money. Let's have a look. Oh, 20,000 new homes. That sounds good. Gaslight. Existing schemes receive 3 billion more in government support. That sounds like the government giving them £3 billion, but it's not. It's gaslighting guff. Here we are. It's a government guarantee. Government guarantees reduce risk for lenders and encourage them to increase the supply. It encourages lenders to increase the supply of credit for house builders. House builders' access to credit is a key constraint on growth in the sector. No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe arguable, but let me just. So guaranteeing more lending encourages more house building. What could possibly go wrong? The lenders have assessed the risk of lending to house builders as too high and have decided not to lend. But the government comes along with £3 billion of taxpayers' money and goes, no, please lend. And if they go bad, which you think they must be going to because you're not lending at the moment, then we'll underwrite it with taxpayers' money. Because we are elected officials and it's not our money, it's the pot of money that the taxpayers have paid, and we're going to use that to underwrite your loans to the house builders who can't sell enough houses at the moment. Everything's fine. It's a press release that makes everything sound fine, but it's not. It's just government guarantees, just like bounce back loans during the pandemic. Don't worry, if the house builder default, the taxpayer will pick up the bill. Everyone happy with that? Did you notice it didn't get much coverage this week, this story? I think that's a big fact, that we should be aware that the government is underwriting house building with taxpayer money when lenders don't think it's good enough to lend without that guarantee. That's fact number 2. And fact number 3 is, oh, I love this one. Where are you, Emma? Hang on a second. So this is my friend who's a buying agent in London, Emma Fields. Finally, some honesty. Every year, agents try and convince sellers about the benefits of listing on Boxing Day, reeling out some Rightmove stats on increased views. Yes, Rightmove says that Boxing Day is the busiest day of the year for online home hunting. And there, 24 hours with your family and you're begging to live somewhere else, aren't you? 24 hours with your whole family, Crystal Lake, got to get out of here. Where's Rightmove? Where can we live? Okay. And they do say that. But the trouble is that this is tire kicking. It's dreaming, it's fantasy viewing, it's property porn, Unless your property will appeal to first-time buyers, especially this year, given the impending stamp duty increase, these figures are meaningless. Correct, Emma. Unless you count online browsing as intent, as opposed to actual viewings and offers. So what Emma is correctly pointing out is that online browsing has no correlation with actual viewings and offers. Things will pick up in March and April between half terms and school holidays, especially if there's another base rate cut in February. And she's included a graph from the Times here. In fact, I've got a better, there we are. And this is, so that black line in the middle is 0%. And to the right of it is positive percent of agreed sales. What have they got? What are the 3 things? Brought to market, price changes, agreed sales. So the black or the dark grey coloured bars are properties brought to market. And 0% is the average. Price changes is the orangey colour, and agreed sales is the blue colour. And what you get at the top, you've got January, right? There's January, which is massively less than average. So in January and December at the bottom, right? Let's look at December, it's easier. In December, there are 20% fewer properties than average brought to the market. There are 50% fewer than average deals. What have we got here? Oh, price changes, that's right. And there are 40% fewer deals agreed in December. And if you think that converts into January, no, it doesn't. January is also well below average. So yet more gaslighting guff from the industry about, oh, it's that Boxing Day bounce, it's record, and everyone goes back, launch your house on Boxing Day. It's just designed to drum up activity during the quietest months of the year. If you are a seller now at the end of November, don't wait, put it on now. Get ahead of that rush. So that's a fantastic fact. Using data from 20 EA reported in the Times and tweeted about, debunked by Emma Fields. That's fact number 3. Fact number 4. Here we go. There it is. Apologies, guys. Right. Today, the Bank of England put out some data on mortgages. And Faisal Islam says, very interesting new Bank of England chart showing coming mortgage market shift. Remember, the Bank of England has data on every single mortgage in the UK. 50% will see an increase in payments over the next 3 years. Okay, let's just, can I highlight that when it's black background? Okay, so that's half of all mortgage holders are going to see increasing payments over the next 3 years, according to the Bank of England. And for those of you who say, yeah, well, the other half are going to see reduction. No, 23% will see no change, and only 27% will see falls in payments over the next 3 years. So the net balance is an increase. Around half of mortgages are expected to see payments increased by 27%. So that is downward pressure on house prices and on the market as a whole. All right. Link to that tweet below, and I haven't got the Bank of England link itself on there, but there we are. That was fact number 4. Fact number 5 is great news. It's the first bit of great news I've seen. It is indisputably great news. It is, you cannot possibly say this is not good news. It's good news for everyone, and it's good news for everyone with no exceptions. And that is the number of transactions has been announced, and it is a big jump. It's fantastic news. This is good news for everyone because it means if you're buying, there's more liquidity in the market and transactions happen a bit faster. There's more stuff coming on and selling, and there's just more turnover in the market, which means there's a bit more choice and transactions happen more easily. And there's more choice as well. If you're selling, it's great news. Rising transactions are best news of all for sellers, almost more than anyone else. And of course, if you are an estate agent or a mortgage broker, more transactions is lovely. And this is a big, big bump. And actually, I've seen the same with the volume of you who are talking to my mortgage brokers and getting mortgages. This month, November, and last month, October, I've had record numbers of you actually completing on your mortgages through the brokers that you talk to me, through my brokers that you've spoken to through me, which is fantastic news. Here are the actual numbers, right? And I look at non-seasonally adjusted numbers, okay, which is actual real numbers. And the seasonally adjusted ones are above. But if you look, the seasonally adjusted number says it's 100,000 transactions in October, whereas the non-seasonally adjusted, the real number, is 111. And to those of you who think that all I do is like bad news, it's not true. When there's good news, I'm very happy about it. And this is genuinely good news. And the non-seasonally adjusted numbers are better than the seasonally adjusted ones, showing, I mean, they're 10% better. That's a big difference, right? And that's a 23% jump on transactions. And this is all transactions. It's mortgage and cash. It's everything. It's complete. It's HMRC. It's not land registry because they cannot get around to recording all the transactions for another year. HMRC gets the data on the nose because of stamp duty payments. 23% up on last year and 17% up just on September. That is fantastic news. Long may it last. Why has that happened? I think that this was a combination of the effect of mortgage rates coming down, and there's a bit of a delay on you actually seeing that. So, there's a couple of months between the mortgage application being made and property being found and then the deal going through. So this is showing when earlier in the year, mortgage rate, like Q2, mortgage rates were quite low, the lowest of this year, and they've been ticking up since then. Then we had the uncertainty of the election, of course. And after that, we saw a nice boost in activity. And that's what you're seeing here is the evidence of that boost happening after the election and when mortgage rates had stopped going up again. I hope they continue on this level. I really, really do. I am not optimistic that they will continue on this level, but I sincerely hope they do. Because I don't have a narrative, everybody. I just have a desire to speak the truth and to find the truth. And there it is. And that's good news. That's fact number 5. And there's one more fact to run through here, which is that Zoopla released their house price index this week as well. And it's worth a quick run through. All right, it's worth a quick run through. This is by, for what it's worth, it's the least guffy house price index of what I call the vested groups, the lenders and the portals. Its figures are the lowest of all of the others in terms of the average house prices. But it is still nevertheless a national average of the UK, and the national average is not helpful because the countries are doing different things. I want to pick up here And again, I don't know what their calculation is of the exact price, but they're saying all countries and regions recorded positive year-on-year growth, with the UK average at 1.5%. Now, as we all know, and let's just take that at face value, right? That the average of house prices. Now, what he doesn't talk about, and in fact, Richard, so the author of this report is also the person who said that when the mix changes, it makes this figure less reliable. And the mix has changed. In other words, that there are more than typical volume of transactions at the higher end and less at the lower end. So I still dispute that that is a reflection of the reality of most people. Okay. But even at 1.5%, with inflation at 2.3%, or if you want CPIH at 3.2%, house prices are growing at half the rate of CPIH, which means that actually, although the nominal price in pounds might be up 1.5%, the actual value, taking into account inflation, is down 1.5, 1.6%. All right. So prices might be up, values are down. That's just a piece of reality that not enough people take into consideration. Okay. It's important because when nominal house price growth isn't higher than inflation, it means that houses are losing value. And it's important that people who think that houses are a good investment know that they're not a good investment at the moment. All right, whatever. Let's just ignore whatever we think about the future. It's not a good investment right now. Now, I think Richard's being a little bit over optimistic here when he says the housing market has now largely adjusted to higher borrowing costs. Well, not according to the Bank of England. The Bank of England says that 50% of mortgages are still going to go up in the next 3 years. He's projecting a 2.5% rise next year. Well, that's still below what inflation is projected to be next year. So that is still, and again, and that varies around the country. And when you look at the graph down here, by the way, where is the graph of nations? Look at Northern Ireland, that massive spike of 6.3% nominal house price growth year on year in Northern Ireland. Okay. If you take that out, that will bring the whole of the rest of the average down as well. And also, so where is Scotland? So Scotland has come right down to 2.3%. All right. But 6.3% Northern Ireland. If you took that out, then the average 1.5% growth would be even lower. But for the avoidance of doubt, I am not acknowledging that, oh, well, house prices are going up, because transaction prices are not reflecting this. Okay. At the top of the ladder, even Rightmove concedes that prices are coming down quite sharply. They're doing different things depending on whether it's a flat or a detached house or a terraced house. It's all different. So just don't pay too much attention to the national averages. Having said that, never mind. Let's just go back and look at. So buyer demand is 24% higher than the same period last year. That's good. That's good news, right? Number of sales agreed, 19% higher. Well, that is also reflecting what HMRC's figures are showing as well, isn't it? So that's great news. A flow of new supply and stock of homes for sale. Slightly different things there, but the stock of homes for sale is also 10% higher than last year. Even though there are more buyers and more transactions going through, there are still even more homes coming onto the market than there are being sold. So the overall stock, so that is another downward pressure on prices overall nationally, but with lots and lots of regional variations and price level variations and property type variations. What else did I want to cover in this? There's a link below if you want to go and look at it yourself and read it in detail. I urge you to do that and go and look at the regional stuff. Yeah, you see, this is where I think he's being a little bit optimistic here. Lower mortgage rates. Well, they're not. They've been creeping up and up and up, haven't they? And now people don't, including me, don't think that mortgage rates are doing much. They're going to kind of stay where they are. We're probably at the new normal for mortgage rates for now. So low mortgage rates reporting. I don't know. I don't agree with that in the same way as as he puts it. Yeah, he's also talking about rising incomes would do the hard work in resetting housing affordability in the face of higher borrowing costs. But I refer back to what I said at the beginning about the Halifax saying affordability is improving. In the real world, affordability is not improving. Using this official top line metric of earnings versus house prices, yes, real earnings, real wage growth, I think, is 1.4%. I mean, it's barely keeping up with this house price growth, right? So, but real house price growth with inflation is still negative, and therefore real wages are positive. Real house price growth is negative. On that metric alone, affordability is improving. But in the real world, where we are actually facing 7.4% owner-occupier housing cost growth, and people are maxed out on credit cards and car loans and that kind of stuff, I'm afraid it's not getting more affordable. There are still people who need and want to buy houses and can afford to do so, as we can see from that bump in transaction volumes from HMRC. Right. Do we have any quick questions? I'm not going to spend too long on this because it's 6 o'clock and Friday supper time, and the kids can't wait to watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Who have we got here? Mohawk says they've been gaslit more times than a combi boiler. Change is coming. Yep, same thing the Chinese have been doing for years. I wonder how that ended up. Evergrande. Almost there says, as usual, Charlie does not think the updated immigration figures are worthy of inclusion in Five Fact Friday. Okay. You're saying that updated figures from over a year ago, from the year to, what was it, April 2023. So we're now over 18 months ago, the figures you're referring to. I mean, whether the figures are right or wrong, the reality is those people are here, right? It's not, what happened back then isn't going to change the housing market in the future. That's why that's not something I consider as a Five Fact Friday. I did get someone sending me other suggested facts. Housing supply in England drops by 6%. So that means new build of housing has gone down, not up. That was reported this week. That's true. Fallen 6% year on year. Only 220,000 net additional dwellings, down from 234,000 the previous year. So new house building is going backwards, not forwards. And something called the Buy Association says capital appreciation over the long term is one of the things the UK property market is best known for. House prices have significantly outpaced wage growth, and it quotes this ridiculous figure. According to a new report from a mortgage lender, has revealed that over 50 years between 1974 and now, UK house prices have risen by a huge 2,534%, notably excluding inflation. And just that's such mortgage guff. Doesn't count as a good enough fact for this Friday. Guys, you've got to understand, population alone does not equal demand for house prices. I have to keep saying this. Demand is not based on population. Demand is based on people with money. People with cash to buy a house outright, or people who've got a mortgage to buy a house outright. There is no demand beyond those two things. No matter how many people there are here, right? That is an indisputable, hard mathematical fact. Either someone's got enough money in cash to pay current market rates for a house, or they've got a deposit and a mortgage enough to buy a house. Anyone outside those two groups does not constitute demand because they can't buy. If you don't have the cash to buy, or if you don't have a mortgage enough to buy, you do not count as demand, right? Go and look at cities that have slums and tell me that the demand for housing there has pushed prices up. No, because the people living in the slums don't have money to buy houses. It's not true. It's too simplistic, that point of view. John Snow says, yeah, when schemes start to come in, you know we're in trouble. Yep. Okay, almost there says they also gave more recent figures over 800,000 net migration. It is relevant. On its own, it's not. If we know how many of those people are arriving with cash, and some of them are, I realize that, right? People coming from Hong Kong have got cash. If there was a breakdown of saying, of those 800,000 people, we now know that 8,000 or 1% of them have got £500,000 in cash with which to buy, and the others are immediately qualifying for mortgages to buy, that would be relevant. That figure alone on its own isn't relevant. Yeah, Rue Standerfield says house prices beat inflation by 2% in the past. Exactly. And they're not doing that now. So the relevance there is that people who were buying, or a contributing factor to their decision to buy, was the financial gain. That factor is now being removed from anyone who understands that if your house is going down in real value, that it's not a good investment. It's a great investment if you need somewhere to live. Definitely, it's an investment in your life, but it's not a financial investment. And this is just, it's gradually, very, very slowly but surely dawning on people that you should always buy if you need a home, you can afford one, definitely. But it's no longer a reliable pension. And in fact, it hasn't been for a long time. It's no longer a good investment like it was. That is just a cold, hard fact. Unless someone out there wants to say to me, rubbish, Charlie, house prices go up by 1,000,000% in every 100 years, and therefore it's always a good investment. It is never a bad time to buy. That's just palpable testicles, isn't it? Because if you're going to say to me that based on these official figures that I've gone through just here, where house prices, even on the portals that are reporting it arguably optimistically, 1.5%, is less than half of CPIH inflation. You're going to tell me that something that's not even keeping up with inflation is a good investment? Of course it isn't. The only people who should be making money from the housing market are people who are building good quality homes and selling them at fair prices. Okay. Number one, people who are buying dilapidated wrecks and refurbishing them, turning them into habitable homes and selling them. Yes, you're adding tangible value to a home. Definitely, if you know what you're doing and if you can do it, if in this market you can find a margin in there, absolutely. Or thirdly, if you are a landlord, especially if you own the property outright without a mortgage and you're supplying someone with a home, giving them a secure, long-term, reliable home, and your tenants are happy, you also deserve to be making money from the property market, because a happy tenant equals a good landlord. There's no disputing, right? If as a tenant you are happy, then you have, by definition, a good landlord, because you've got a home that you're happy in at a price that you're happy paying, right? Happy tenant equals good landlord. Good landlords deserve to make money because you are in the business of providing supply of homes for people who need them. Making money purely off investment is what's caused the problem of affordability now and the housing crisis we now have. And as those of you who pay attention to me know, I'm working on my new mantra, which is fix housing, fix everything. And I absolutely mean it. And I can argue all day long till the cows come home. Let me just show you when I get up there. Fix housing, fix everything. And I'm planning to make some merch with that, right? And fixing housing includes making it not as appealing an investment opportunity from a capital appreciation point of view, because that prices ordinary people who want a home out of the market. That leaves people despondent. It leaves people not being motivated enough to go to work, because if you go and do a month's work or a week's work, and at the end of the week's work, you've earned enough to pay for a good home, that alone is a motivation to go and do a good job. But if you go and work hard, do a good week's work, and what you earn isn't enough to even rent a decent home, let alone buy one, there's no wonder nobody wants to work, because you just removed the motivation for doing it. Wow. Hi, Teddy. Teddy's an agent in Southwest London, just leaving the office tipsy, fun fact. Just agreed an offer today on a house. The house was bought in June 2022 for £626,000. Offer accepted today, 580,000. That's £46,000 less. And if you factor in inflation, that's a big drop, right? So that's the real world. That's what's happening. That's from an estate agent. Do not tell me house prices are rising. An average calculation of transaction values and mix adjusted and weights and all the rest of it, you can manipulate those numbers in a way. Actual real transaction values aren't going up. That's 7% nominal, Patricia. Factor in inflation. What's the real drop there? When prices are supposed to be going up, by the way. Yeah. And Teddy says 3-bed mid-terraced, which is the most popular type of property. It is significant. Righty-ho, guys. I'm going to wrap up now. If you want to get direct access to me, and thank you for those of you who've been waiting for the video. Thank you for those of you who've been booking video calls with me. If you want to book a video call with me, you can do it on my Buy Me a Coffee page, buymeacoffee.com/MHWC. You'll find the options to join the Private Movers Club there. You'll find the ability to book a video meeting with me there, and you can join the Charlie and Stig Club there. If you want to talk to my mortgage broking, my hand-picked mortgage brokers who are doing fantastic things at the moment, that have been for 2 years, then my website /mortgage will get you there. Where are they? There it is. mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. Conveyancing as well. If you want the mhwc.co.uk/conveyancing, talk to my handpicked conveyancers, and find me on my website. I've really got to go because my food's getting cold. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will